Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. So this past weekend was really interesting because we got a new report that might suggest that a big PlayStation exclusive is on the way, coming from a legendary studio. But interestingly enough, they're also reportedly working on an Xbox exclusive as well. So some interesting things are definitely happening with all of that. So we will be talking about both of those exclusives today. Now also, a beloved PlayStation franchise might be set to return sometime here soon for the PlayStation 5, so we will go over all of that as well. To start today's episode off, though, we're going to be taking a look at a couple of different Final Fantasy games, being Final Fantasy Origins and then Final Fantasy 16. See, the thing is, next year is going to be a big year for Final Fantasy. It is Final Fantasy's 35th anniversary, and, well, it looks like they do have a couple of big games planned for next year, one being Final Fantasy Origin, which now has an official release date. Final Fantasy Origin now has an official release date for March 18th of 2022. This will be when you can finally go out and kill Chaos, as they like to continue to say in the trailer and the game itself. And that's actually one of the cool things about this announcement. When this game was originally announced, this game was met with some criticism, whether that be with its narrative or even with its combat. So not everybody's exactly sold in this game just yet, and that's where the demo kind of comes in. They did announce a demo as well, and you know, the cool thing about this is it's actually available right now. You can go download the Final Fantasy Origin demo for either the Xbox Series or the PlayStation 5. So that's very welcome, and it does sound like that they've improved the gameplay since we last played it earlier this year. Now, as for Final Fantasy 16, this is the big one, and it does look like this game is set to release sooner than what some of us might be expecting. Yeah, this is according to the Final Fantasy 16 producer, which says that they are currently putting on the final touches for Final Fantasy 16. So based off of what he's saying, it does sound like Final Fantasy 16 is pretty far along in development, and there's a very good chance that we could probably hear about this game sooner rather than later. Right now, I'm actually thinking that there's a very real possibility that we see the next big reveal for Final Fantasy 16 at the Game Awards. I mean, when you think about it, earlier this year they did say that they wanted to show Final Fantasy 16 at TGS, but they couldn't quite make the deadline. But now they're saying that they're finishing up on the final touches for Final Fantasy 16, and you have the Game Awards this December, and that would be the perfect place to reveal a big game like this. You know, Final Fantasy is a beloved franchise, and this is also a big PlayStation 5 timed exclusive. So not only is Square Enix going to want to show this game, but you have PlayStation that they're very obviously they're going to want to get a lot of eyes on this game, and there's not going to be a better place to do that than at the Game Awards. This is one of the biggest events of the entire year, so I do think that it would make a lot of sense to show Final Fantasy 16 over at the Game Awards. Either way, it does sound like Final Fantasy 16 is right around the corner, and it should get some kind of 2022 release date, and that is very fitting with it being Final Fantasy's 35th anniversary. Next up, we need to talk about PlayStation Now for a moment. They did reveal their October games lineup, which actually there's some pretty good games on this list, which actually, let's just go and take a look at it. You have Amnesia Collection, Desperados 3, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, Victor Vran Overkill Edition, yet another Zombie Defense HD, Fallout 76, which is an interesting one, and then The Last of Us Part 2. And on paper, that actually looks like a pretty good list, right? I mean, there's kind of a mix of everything here. You have Amnesia Collection, which is a great game for the spooktacular month of October. You have Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, which is an all-time great JRPG. You have Fallout 76, which is, interestingly enough, an Xbox-owned franchise. That one's interesting to show up in PlayStation Now. Then you also have The Last of Us Part 2, and this is the big one. This is a game coming from the all-star PlayStation studio Naughty Dog. It was very well received critically, though it was a little bit more mixed when it came to fans. But either way, The Last of Us Part 2, this is a big game. But, and I always feel like there's a but when it comes to PlayStation Now. Yes, if you look at the fine print, The Last of Us Part 2 is available until Monday, January 3rd of 2022. And I don't get it. I really don't. The Last of Us Part 2 is a PlayStation-developed game, but they continue to have these short time frames for PlayStation Now games. They did this with God of War a year or so back, and I know they've done it with a few other PlayStation-developed games, but it just makes no sense to put these in this service for only 3 months. I mean, I can kind of understand when it comes to a big third-party game, you do have to get these games under contract to allow them in PlayStation Now, and maybe they don't want to spend the money to get those in for a full year. And okay, I at least get that. But you own this game, and it's still only in PlayStation Now for 3 months. I just don't understand that. And I've said this in the past, but I almost feel like Sony, they have one foot in and they have one foot out of PlayStation Now. It's as if they refuse to just completely commit to a subscription service like this. Now, I will say that PlayStation Now has improved over the last couple years, and if you look at their library, they have some good games in there, but when it comes to these big games that they continuously put in a service, they need to keep them on PlayStation Now for more than 3 months, especially when it comes to your own first-party games. You can completely control that scenario, so I would really like to see them improve in that regard. If they're going to jump into subscription gaming, I think that they need to push a little bit more, especially with their first-party games. Nonetheless, though, I still will say that this is a pretty good lineup of games all in all for the month of October. Now, speaking of PlayStation, one game that we've kind of heard a lot about over the last year or two is Silent Hill. There's been a lot of rumors over the last year or two that Konami is bringing back Silent Hill in a big way. They're apparently working on multiple games, though the question now would be, who exactly are working on these games? And well, Gematsu claims to know at least one of those studios, and yeah, let's just go and check this out. Gematsu has also heard that a new Silent Hill is in development at a prominent Japanese developer. That studio is Kojima Productions, according to a publishing source that wishes to remain anonymous, who also said that the game is funded by Sony Interactive Entertainment. Yeah, so right away, that's a lot to take in right there, because not only has fans been wanting Silent Hills to return for such a long time, but Kojima is possibly working on this game. That would be absolutely massive. And then on top of that, apparently this is being funded by Sony Interactive Entertainment, which would mean that this is more than likely a PlayStation 5 exclusive. And there has been a lot of rumors over the last year or two that that is indeed the case. But the fact that Kojima could possibly be working on this game, that right there is what's going to get a lot of fans excited, because as we all know, he did work on PT. Konami unfortunately canceled that game, but fans adored the PT demo. Like, that singular demo was so good that it literally inspired full games thereafter. Like, that's how beloved that demo was. But that's kind of the thing when it comes to this report. There's a lot of question marks that surrounds a deal like this. One being Konami and Hideo Kojima working together once again. It was very public, this split between Konami and Hideo Kojima. It did not go well. They were not on great terms whenever Hideo Kojima left Konami, so to see them possibly work together, it does bring up some questions. However, according to Video Game Chronicles, which is a trusted news outlet that has a lot of sources across the game industry, they mentioned that they had heard that Hideo Kojima and Konami did kind of mend some of their differences in recent years. So if that's true, maybe they would be willing to work together once again. The other thing, though, that fans continue to speculate on is that a lot of people believe this isn't possible because there's already rumors that Hideo Kojima is working on an Xbox game. There has been this rumor going around for quite a while that Xbox and Hideo Kojima is actually working together on a cloud-based project. This would be an Xbox exclusive, and according to Jeff Grubb, which is pretty accurate when it comes to these type of leaks, he claimed that Xbox and Hideo Kojima did sign a letter of intent to work on this game. So because of that, some fans are thinking, well, if he's working on an Xbox game, this PlayStation game can't be real, and vice versa. If this PlayStation game is real, then this Xbox game can't be real. And actually, I don't think that that's the case for either. Now, I'm not saying that this Xbox Hideo Kojima game is real, and I'm definitely not saying that this Silent Hills game is real either. Both of these are just rumors for the time being. But with that said, it is possible that Hideo Kojima could possibly be working on both. And the reason I say that is because Death Stranding released back in 2019. It's now been 2 years since that game's released, and Hideo Kojima hasn't just been doing nothing since that point. Now, of course, they did the director's cut, and, you know, of course, that required some extra work. But I highly doubt that's the only thing that they've been working on for the last 2 years. In fact, it's very well known that Hideo Kojima has been teasing some kind of horror-based game for the last couple years. Now, I have no idea if this game's related to Silent Hills in any shape or form, but my point is that there's a very good chance that he's been working on something over the last couple years. Whereas this Xbox game, it might not have even started development yet. All we know is that they've signed a letter of intent to work together, so we don't know how far out this game actually is. It could still be years away with them only signing a letter of intent so far. So yes, I think that there's a possibility that both of these could be real. Again, I'm not saying that either one is real, but I don't think that you can just flat out rule it out either based off of the information that we have currently as of this moment. I guess we'll kind of see about this, but what I will kind of say is I do hope that Hideo Kojima is working on a Silent Hills game just so we can finally see his vision on the Silent Hills franchise. Now, I also got some good news for you Sly Cooper fans out there, because according to the Insider Special Nick, which has had a pretty good reputation over the last year or so, he posted this up over on Twitter. Hey Sly fans, I guess some good news. My normal Sony source was originally told by a newer source, just confirmed to me that Sly is indeed coming back. That's it. That's all. Just an update since many of you still DM me to this day. So there it is. The beloved Sly Cooper might be coming back after all of these years. It did miss out in the PlayStation 4 generation, unfortunately, but it looks like Sony might be looking to bring back some of their mascot platformers for the PlayStation 5 generation. And that's kind of one of the things that I've noticed here in the last 12 or so months. Some of the best games that's released in the last year has been 3D platformers, and especially on the PlayStation side of things. Since the PlayStation 5 launched, they've brought out Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Astro's Playroom, and then also Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And wouldn't it be just so fitting to also bring over Sly Cooper as well? And I've always really felt that Sly Cooper is a unique 3D mascot platformer, because not only does it have strong 3D platforming mechanics, but it also has stealth-based elements incorporated. So I think that you could do some more things with those stealth-based elements and kind of separate it from some of the other games that's been releasing in the last year or so. And we are seeing, once again, that you can have success within this genre as well as make it into a big AAA game. We saw that with Psychonauts 2 and Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. They incorporated great visuals with good stories and strong gameplay mechanics, and I think they can do the same with Sly Cooper. With all that in mind, though, the big question then becomes, who's going to work on a new Sly Cooper game? Of course, Sucker Punch, which is the original studio behind Sly Cooper, well, they've been busy working on bigger games such as Ghost of Tsushima. Then you have Sunsaro Games, which worked on Sly Cooper Thieves in Time, but, well, they're now owned by Facebook and Oculus Studios, so yeah, they're probably not working on a new Sly Cooper game. So it would be interesting to see who exactly could be working on a new Sly Cooper game, but I really do hope this one is true. Of course, you gotta take it with a grain of salt, but I really do love the resurgence that we've been seeing here recently when it comes to 3D mascot platformers. Now, before I go, we do have one other thing to talk about, and this is actually yet another leak. Apparently, it's just been a very leaky day, but this one in specific, I'm pretty confident that this one is indeed real, and that is yet another Xbox Series storage expansion card. Now, earlier this month, there was a 512GB expansion card from Seagate that was spotted on multiple retailer websites, but to this day, we haven't got an official confirmation for that. However, thanks to Windows Central, they've now discovered new promotional material for a 512GB expansion card from, indeed, of course, Seagate. So this 512GB expansion more than likely is a very real thing, and it's just a matter of when they're going to announce it. And it will be interesting to see what exactly they price this thing at. Overall, I think Microsoft did a good job in finding a way to expand the storage for the Xbox Series, and I mean, you just kind of plug this thing in and play it. It just simply works, so it is a nice option to have. But right now, with the only option being that 1TB Seagate expansion card, it does sit at $220. So that's kind of where this 512GB option will be such a welcome addition, because we should see that price pretty dramatically decrease. If they can get this thing to, let's say, down to $120, $110, or even $100, a lot more people would probably jump on board in purchasing this 512GB expansion card rather than spending the $220 for 1TB. That price really does matter, especially when it comes to the Xbox Series S. I mean, that thing already doesn't have a lot of storage, so getting an expansion really helps out that console specifically, and having an option for 512GB, Yeah, be very welcome additions. So hopefully we get an official announcement for this sooner rather than later. And as soon as they do, I, of course, will let you know. On to the poll of the day, though. Something that we talked about last week was that rumor about a new Metal Gear Solid remake in development by Virtuous, which apparently is Metal Gear Solid 3. Now, that one took a lot of fans by surprise, myself included, because I think most of us kind of assumed that Konami would remake Metal Gear Solid 1 rather than Metal Gear Solid 3. So I thought I'd ask you all, which Metal Gear Solid game would you rather see get a remake? And, well, 57% of you did vote for Metal Gear Solid 1, while only 27% voted for Metal Gear Solid 3. And really, that's kind of what I thought as well. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 3 is a fantastic game, and if done right, it could be absolutely amazing. You know, it is a fan favorite for a reason, but at the same time, I feel like with Metal Gear Solid 1, you could probably do the most with that game, completely remaking it and bringing it into an entirely new perspective. Now, I do understand that there was Twin Snakes for the GameCube, but you could still do a lot with the original Metal Gear Solid on modern hardware. Either way, though, whether it's Metal Gear Solid 1 or Metal Gear Solid 3, I'd be happy with either just because I really do like the Metal Gear Solid franchise. I mean, of course, it's a little concerning without Hideo Kojima, but because they already have the source material there, they're not really working on a new story, so I think that they could still make it work with it being a remake. Now, as for you all in the comments saying that you've never played a Metal Gear Solid game before, yeah, you all kind of make me afraid to post a poll up about how many of you all have actually played these games. I really hope that that would be a high percentage. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.